What do you do for a living? Now, I'm not fishing for your job title or the monotonous list of tasks you robotically check off each day. Nope, I'm digging deeper. What do you actually create? What do you improve? What impact are you making? For some of you tuning in, snapping up an answer might be as easy as pie. But for those of you navigating the thrilling world of middle management, steering the ship of a human resources team in the exhilarating realm of insurance underwriting, well, it might just be a smidge trickier to pinpoint. Flashback a century ago, and service jobs barely scratched the surface, making up less than a quarter of all employment. Fast forward to today, and they're dominating nearly 80% of the workforce. From the baristas crafting your daily caffeine fix, to the retail warriors fetching that elusive pair of jeans from the back, or the hotel staff who lug your overpacked suitcase up 3 flights of stairs without needing a chiropractor afterwards. These folks might seem like a luxury to those who partake, but let's be real, they're brewing value faster than a double-shot espresso. They're decking you out in the latest styles and ensuring that your luggage arrives bruise-free, and so do you. But hold on, the service sector is a beast with many faces, stretching far beyond the confines of your local cafe or boutique. It's a broad church, housing everyone from chirpy call center salespeople to the high-flying CEOs. It's a tad ironic, though, that finding a job outside the service sector today is like trying to find a quiet spot in Times Square. It's nearly impossible without some super special certification tucked under your arm. And remember that. It's crucial for later. With the rise of what some might call the self-serving service sector and the booming industry of seemingly bull jobs, you'd think the ruthlessly efficient free market would have booted these non-contributors to the curb, right? Punishing the businesses burdened with their salaries while rewarding the lean, mean working machines. But nope. That's not quite the case. And guess what? To kick off this journey into the quirks of modern capitalism, we're taking a scenic detour through the history of Soviet communism. Buckle up, it's going to be an enlightening ride. The Soviet Union, a colossal experiment in community and labor, revered the idea that work was both honorable and essential. The very term Soviet translates loosely to a workers' council, and it encapsulated a society where labor was not just a duty, but a source of pride. Yet, this noble intention had its pitfalls. When jobs were scarce, the insistence on full employment led to some rather creative job creation. Imagine being tasked with roles as essential as counting the endless inventory of nuts and bolts day in and day out. Factory managers driven not just by the need to fulfill production quotas, but by the noble idea of overseeing a large workforce, often engaged in what became known as worker hoarding. They hired excessively, not just to meet current needs, but out of fear that a shortage of workers might later hamper their operations. This resulted in jobs that frankly made watching paint dry seem thrilling. Flash forward to the modern Western world, and while we're decades and ideologies removed from 1950s Russia, some striking parallels linger. The concept of seemingly superfluous jobs gained modern relevance. Feeling puzzled by your bank statements? You're definitely not alone in this financial fog. Research shows that a whopping 88% of high school graduates are just as bewildered, navigating their finances like a bad game of Monopoly, with zero financial education. And as if that weren't enough, 60% of Americans are failing basic financial literacy tests. It's like algebra all over again, but worse, it's real money. The ebook, Master Your Money, is here to solve and guide you through this maze. Developed by financial experts, this guide is your treasure map to mastering money matters. Access the QR code or click the link in the description, grab your copy, and start your quest for financial clarity. Don't just stand there. Make your money behave and work for you. When anthropologist David Graeber released his book Bull Jobs. Here, he explores the proliferation of what he sees as increasingly commonplace yet arguably unnecessary roles. Graeber categorizes these roles into 5 types, starting with the flunkies, roles like doormen, receptionists, chauffeurs, and assistants. These positions, he argues, primarily serve to bolster the status of others and could largely be replaced by technology. The question isn't just whether these jobs are essential, but whether they are a sophisticated modern echo of Soviet-style employment for employment's sake. Next up are the duct tapers, who fix problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. Consider the inventory manager who holds exclusive system permissions to update stock levels, tasks that could be automated or at the very least distributed among more hands. These workers are the band-aids of the corporate world, patching up issues that a little foresight and planning could easily eliminate. As we peel back the layers of our modern economic system, it's fascinating and a bit disconcerting to see how the past shadows the present. It raises the question, are we really advancing in our employment practices, or are we just circling back to old habits dressed in new tech? Continuing our exploration into David Graeber's dissection of the modern workplace, we find ourselves staring down the barrel of duct tapers, employees who exist solely to correct the blunders of others. Graeber describes a particularly poignant scenario, a duct taper painstakingly fixing mistakes made by a so-called brilliant statistician who, in reality, was anything but. This duct taper navigated through bureaucratic mazes to prevent these errors from causing serious damage. Here, Graeber suggests, the issue isn't necessarily with the duct taper's role itself, which does add value, but rather with the inefficiencies that necessitate such a role. If only these needless obstacles were removed, imagine how much more effective their contributions could be. Then we arrive at the box tickers, the next category in the bull job lexicon. These are the folks who might as well be part of the furniture in big corporations. They're the creators of company newsletters that nobody reads, filled with puff pieces about executives and other trivia that's as engaging as watching paint dry. Yet, these roles exist because they contribute to the corporate facade, projecting an image of legitimacy and busyness that's supposedly essential for business relations. Without these box tickers, a company might look too small-time, too unserious for the big leagues, or so the logic goes. But it gets even murkier as we delve into the realm of the goons, a term Graeber affectionately uses for jobs that not only add no value but actively harm society. These roles are paradoxically deemed necessary simply because they exist. A prime example? Corporate lawyers. They don't produce anything tangible. Their primary function is defensive, shielding the company from legal challenges. Yet, in a twist of irony, if a company didn't employ these in-house legal eagles, they'd find themselves at a severe disadvantage, forced to outsource at higher costs to fend off challenges from other firms that do keep lawyers on the payroll. In these descriptions, Graeber isn't just critiquing individual roles. He's pointing out a systemic issue within modern capitalism, where jobs are often not about adding value, but about maintaining appearances, managing internal inefficiencies, or upholding a precarious balance of mutual deterrence within the corporate ecosystem. This revelation invites us to ponder, what truly makes work valuable? How many of us are stuck in roles that defend against problems of our own making? And what does this say about our economic priorities? As we continue our journey through the murky waters of unnecessary jobs, let's pivot to the dark arts of patent trolls. These entities are virtually companies designed to hoard intellectual property, not to innovate or contribute to the tech ecosystem, but to wage legal battles. These companies scour the landscape for generic patents to acquire, then pivot to suing other firms, banking on the likelihood of a lucrative out-of-court settlement rather than actual legal victory. Consider the high-profile example of Apple suing Samsung over the design of a smartphone, specifically its rectangular shape with rounded corners. This litigation prompts a critical question. What real value was created by employing thousands to enforce such a ruling? Beyond the lawyers, think of the lobbyists who work tirelessly to tweak the legislative framework to benefit their employers, or the salespeople who shuffle contracts and negotiations, acting as quintessential middlemen, yet adding little tangible value. But if you thought the goons were the pinnacle of workplace redundancy, brace yourself for the taskmasters. These are the overseers of the corporate realm, whose roles often boil down to managing people who, frankly, don't need much overseeing. While effective management is crucial when coordinating diverse teams with complex tasks, the existence of a sales manager supervising a team where everyone does essentially the same job raises eyebrows. At best, such managers are like overpaid cheerleaders, pumping up morale but not necessarily enhancing productivity. At worst, they are the masters of distraction, organizing endless meetings, drafting strategic mission statements that sound impressive but accomplish little, and generally pulling people away from work where they could genuinely make a difference. These taskmasters aren't an anomaly, but a symptom of a broader problem in many large organizations. The stratified layers of management often exist not out of necessity, but because they fulfill a psychological and hierarchical function, making those at the top feel more in control and justified in their positions. In this web of unnecessary jobs, some roles amalgamate aspects of all 5 of Graeber's categories, epitomizing the inefficiency at play. Many middle managers, for instance, preside over departments that are fundamentally redundant, their positions upheld only by the convoluted structures of corporate bureaucracies designed to inflate the egos of those at the apex of the business pyramid. Feeling puzzled by your bank statements? You're definitely not alone in this financial fog. Research shows that a whopping 88% of high school graduates are just as bewildered, navigating their finances like a bad game of Monopoly, with zero financial education. And as if that weren't enough, 60% of Americans are failing basic financial literacy tests. It's like algebra all over again, but worse, it's real money. The ebook, Master Your Money, is here to solve and guide you through this maze. Developed by financial experts, this guide is your treasure map to mastering money matters. Access the QR code or click the link in the description, grab your copy, and start your quest for financial clarity. Don't just stand there. Make your money behave and work for you. By exposing these roles, Graeber isn't just critiquing individuals who fill them, but pointing to a systemic issue where the creation of certain jobs serves more to perpetuate corporate hierarchies and satisfy psychological needs than to foster genuine productivity or innovation. This beckons a larger discussion about how we define and value work in our societies, and whether our current systems truly serve the broader goals of efficiency and societal advancement. But how did we land in this peculiar state of affairs where our capitalist systems, supposedly efficient and lean, mirror some of the inefficiencies of the Soviet Union's labor model? This isn't just a quirky historical footnote. It's a pressing question about the nature of work and value in modern economies. The Soviet Union, driven by an ideology that glorified labor as a noble endeavor, manufactured jobs to ensure everyone was employed. Their belief was that a job, any job, was a pillar of societal dignity and national pride. Fast forward to today, and while the ideology might have shifted, the practices eerily resemble those of the past. In our capitalist economies, we boast of systems designed to reward efficiency and productivity. Yet we encounter a disconnect. The bureaucratic inertia of corporate structures often leads to the same misalignments seen under Soviet rule. It's not uncommon for middle managers in today's corporations to stockpile staff to boost their own importance, mirroring the staff hoarding of Soviet factory workers. The parallels extend to the narratives we spin. If Soviet factory walls were plastered with propaganda glorifying the proletariat, today's equivalent can be found on LinkedIn, where every minor corporate initiative is inflated into a monumental career achievement. These profiles often boast about leading nebulous projects like streamlining multi-platform digital sales ecosystems, which, stripped of their glossy veneer, often involve mundane or redundant tasks. Moreover, just as the Soviets were obsessed with keeping everyone busy, regardless of the actual need for their labor, modern corporate culture obsesses over ensuring that employees fill their designated 40 hours a week, even if it means inventing pointless tasks. Beyond the workplace, the myth of the free market in countries like the USA is complicated by layers of bureaucracy that dictate how businesses operate. The free market is not so free when every aspect of commerce, from building a factory to exporting goods, is hedged in by a thicket of regulations and red tape. To start a factory, you must navigate zoning laws, contractual tenders, insurance requirements, and a web of tariffs and excises if you plan to trade internationally. This bureaucracy, while intended to regulate and standardize, often ends up stifling innovation and padding out work hours with compliance tasks that, while necessary, do not contribute directly to productive output. It paints a picture not of a dynamic, streamlined economy, but of a system where much energy is expended just to maintain the status. Understanding this context helps us see that the proliferation of bull jobs is not merely a failure of individual companies, but a systemic feature of modern economies, reflecting deep-seated structural inefficiencies and cultural attitudes towards work. The challenge lies in realigning these systems to truly value and reward genuine productivity and innovation, rather than merely the appearance of busyness. As we wrap up this insightful exploration into the complexities of modern employment and bureaucratic bloat, let's consider the wider implications and potential solutions. It's clear that the intricate web of regulations and corporate structures, while designed to create order and fairness, often ends up perpetuating a cycle of bull jobs that serve to justify their own existence rather than contribute meaningful value. This isn't merely a case for arguing about the size of government, big versus small, but rather about the quality of governance and corporate practices. The proliferation of legislation, much of it influenced by corporate lobbying, creates a labyrinthine business environment where legal and accounting expertise becomes not just valuable, but essential. This system, perhaps inadvertently, favors large, established corporations that can afford such teams and create significant barriers for new entrants, potentially stifling innovation and competition. Solutions at a societal level. A societal shift in how we view work hours could be revolutionary. Imagine a culture where it's perfectly acceptable to say, "My work is done, so my day is done." This could lead to a more efficient allocation of human resources, where workers are valued for the outcomes they produce rather than the hours they put in. This shift would not only enhance productivity, but also improve quality of life, allowing people more time to enjoy leisure, family, or pursue personal projects. Solutions for individuals. On an individual level, the picture is a bit grimmer in the short term. If you find yourself mired in a role filled with bull tasks, there may be few immediate escape routes. In the short term, you might need to suck it up. However, developing a side hustle or engaging in activities outside of work can provide a creative outlet and a break from the monotony. For those who choose to embrace their roles, sometimes knowing the game, recognizing the bureaucratic nature of your tasks, can make them easier to handle. There's a certain comfort in understanding that you're not alone in facing these frustrations. Moreover, if you're really fascinated by the inner workings of complex systems, perhaps ironically, immersing yourself in environments like the video game EVE Online could be enlightening. This game mirrors real-world economic complexities so closely that it has developed its own ecosystem of bull jobs, providing a bizarre yet insightful parallel to real-world economic activities. Wrapping up, as we continue to navigate and understand these complexities, the discussion doesn't end here. If you found this exploration into the quirks of modern work and bureaucracy enlightening, consider engaging further by liking and subscribing to our channel. Stay tuned for more insights. This dialogue is not just about critiquing, it's about envisioning a more efficient and fulfilling world of work. It's about taking what seems like an insurmountable problem and turning it into opportunities for reform and improvement, both individually and collectively.